Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Experience Kills. I'm your host Ben, and joining me today in the rotating third seat, it's Richard.
Yo, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're listening to this. It's very early for us.
Yes it is. Yes it is.
Come on, 9:30 is not very early.
It is on a Sunday, Rob. And also joining us today, my wonderful co-host, my always partner in crime, it's Rob.
Hello. I never sleep. This is why it's not early for me.
All I know is between the two of you, I can blame you for this. It wasn't my fault. I could have done it any time over this bank holiday weekend, but we had to do it this time to get everybody involved because of you two awkward fellows. So, not on me.
I'm sorry.
Not on
I
me.
have a life.
I don't.
Makes a change.
Yeah, I just play video games mostly and watch things. So saying that, this week, not played many video games or watch things.
Well, you've played one video game, a hell of a lot.
We're reaching the end of that. We'll talk about that later, though. We'll talk about that later. So, how's everybody doing? How are you doing, Richard? Not obviously spoken in a couple of weeks. What's going on with Richard?
Thank you. Pretty good. I've not played a lot this week, or past couple of weeks. My daughter's been visiting this week, and she's just left, like just before we started recording. So, yeah, you're getting me fresh from family time. I don't really think this is the podcast for family time talk, though, is it? This is video games. So I'm going to have to try and pull something out of the bag somehow. Let's see how this goes.
So, you've not been watching anything either or anything in the last couple of weeks?
No.
I always like to put people on the spot about that. I know you did, however, watch D1 and D2 of the Mighty Ducks movies, didn't you?
Oh, that was ages ago.
Yeah.
We've spoken about that. Yeah.
Did you continue? Did you continue to D3 Game Changers, or did you stop?
I saw D3.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the series yet. Is it all on there?
Yeah, it just finished, so that's why it's on my notes. So the finale of the first season, 10 episodes, it's just finished. Honestly, I still really enjoyed it, and I'm glad the episodes were pretty tight. Like 35 minutes was kind of the top level for them, because it was a bit of a stretch in the end. I think the concept of the show, the arc of that show, had to be quite extended to pull it out over a 10 episode TV show, because really it would have worked perfectly fine as a 90-minute 2-hour movie. You could absolutely have hit the same beats in a film as they achieve in the show. Don't get me wrong, the show is still fun, some really nice characters, the great kind of sports story you'd expect from a Mighty Ducks whatever, and a very satisfying finale, and definitely, they can do more if they so wished without a problem. One thing I was a bit bummed out about was there is an episode in which most of the original Ducks come back, but there is a very obvious absence of a particular character, which they do try and deal with narratively, but it's just unfortunate that person did not want to come back.
Okay. I was going to ask what the reason was they didn't want to come back. I'm assuming it's just no thanks.
Don't know. I don't know enough about this actor and the politics behind it, but it would have been great to see him. He was such a cornerstone of the movies that, yeah, it was a bummer that they didn't get him back. But I was kind of hoping that he'd show up in the finale or something, and he just didn't. Because that's why we watch this, isn't it? Like, I think unlike Cobra Kai, the Game Changers is definitely way more relying on nostalgia than actual new storytelling. Because Cobra Kai takes that franchise in such a fresh, interesting direction, whereas this just feels very much like another Mighty Ducks TV show, film, just spread out over a TV show, I should say. But yeah, it's good. It's not Cobra Kai good, but it is good. And you guys have all watched Cobra Kai, haven't you?
Nope.
Yeah, fully into Cobra Kai.
Oh, it's
good show.
It's incredible. I actually just caught like the last half of the original Karate Kid on TV the other night, and it's like retroactively Cobra Kai does so much to make that movie better. Like, because it's become now an origin of the Cobra Kai storyline, so it's like, it just connects all up so well. It's incredible. Especially as well, I can't wait to see where they go with season 4. Yeah, 4. They've just started teasing it. It's going to be good. It's going to be really good. But no, you're not watching anything, Rob? You've all finished Line of Duty? You're all up on?
Yeah, finished Line of Duty. I've dabbled in, I've watched a few more bits of No Game No Life, a few more bits of Community, just because I wanted something on while I'm eating dinner before I play Mass Effect. that's basically the only reason I've been watching anything. I am excited to watch Friends, the one where they all get back together again. Their reunion special that aired very recently, I think.
Yeah.
So
I did watch that. I did watch that. I forgot.
Is it worth it? Is it interesting?
Yeah, I had fairly low expectations.
Yeah,
very low. Yeah.
For anyone that doesn't know, it's not like an episode. It's kind of a reminiscence on their time on the show. Some interview segments, some guest stars giving their thoughts on what they enjoyed about the show. Doesn't sound great, does it? But actually, I'm more connected with that show than I really realised, and it was really nice to see them all together again and hear them talk about what it meant to them. Brought a bit of a tear to the eye, I would say.
What it meant to them, I read some numbers. It means $7 million a year in paycheck, just as it gets repeated.
Even Gunther from Central Park, he makes a fucking mint off it, and he's just a side character.
So I'm
the
sure
only
they get
thing,
teary.
the only thing that's teary with joy. The only thing that's putting me off is that James Corden is the host. So,
you don't like James Corden?
Yeah,
he is a colossal twat.
Yeah, but that's kind of his thing. I don't know. I just think he's one of those people that's so ridiculously talented. He's kind of annoying with it. Like the man can sing, act, host, be a comedian, write. There's literally nothing he can't do, and it's like,
apart from actually give a shit as a decent human being.
Is he not a nice human being then? Is that true?
There was an instance that was described by some F-like cabin crew where he was in business class. A woman comes hurrying in from economy into business class, holding a child, sits next to James Corden. I think, he's going to fucking go mad. No, baby is crying. He's not giving a shit and actually puts ear protectors on, and stays there till the end of the flight. And at the end, turns out that it's his wife and child. And he hasn't done a single thing to help look after this kid, soothe the kid. And he's just sat there waiting for it to shut up and his wife to actually get bags down whilst holding said child. He's an absolute selfish arsehole. I would want something. It's been confirmed, I think 6 or 7 different eyewitnesses turned around and said, yeah, that is true.
How do they know it's his wife?
He is well known for being an absolute arsehole to literally everyone he's not friends with.
Including his wife?
Yes.
And he's not friends with his wife?
Apparently not. But yeah, I read a Reddit thread. I read a Reddit thread during the week, and he's a brilliant host, but he is an awful human.
Well, I was going to say, besides his personal behaviour, whatever the truth of that, I don't think he is a great host. On this Friends reunion, he just comes across as professionally insincere. It's just, it undermines there is a sincerity behind the show, Friends. And I think his presence sort of undercuts that a little bit. I'd rather he wasn't on it, or if someone else was on it that was affiliated with the show, that would have been better. So, yeah.
I might check it out. It's
still worth a watch.
Yeah, I recorded it. I've got it on my Skybox. I saw it had kind of appeared in the UK, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay. I mean, it's one of those things, like, I like everyone of a certain age, I think we all religiously watched this, like, when it was airing for the first time, and then in repeats as well. And you're just connected to it, probably, like you said, Richard, more than you realise, because it was such a huge thing. It was bigger than anything else of that era. I think bigger than, like, you know, for me, genre stuff, Buffy, X-Files, but yeah, it was just so much larger than that. You really felt like you knew those people. It was weird, you know, and they're characters on a sitcom, but no, I'll probably check it out. Yeah, might be interesting.
Something else I saw, I've just remembered. I went back to the cinema.
Yes,
I went back to the cinema this week. I saw Mortal Kombat in the cinema. That was great.
Worth it?
Great fun. Well, the film wasn't, obviously. But yeah, going back to the cinema was a cool experience, and one that I've been waiting for so long. So Cineworld shut its doors in, October last year? It's been a long old time.
Earlier than that, I think. But it's like, so the only film I saw last year in the cinema at all was Tenet. And then since Tenet, I haven't seen anything. But yeah, I had 2 films booked. I was going to go see Quiet Place 2 on Friday, and I was going to go see Cruella on Saturday. We didn't go to either in the end. Too exhausted after work on Friday, and then Cruella was for the wife, and she was too exhausted after working yesterday, and so we ended up not bothering to see either. So hopefully I'll make that happen soon. But that's the problem with the old unlimited cards. You can just not bother. There's no actual reason to go unless you really want to. So because you can just whatever. Didn't cost you anything, did it? So no biggie.
I think the last film I saw.
They gave me options. I think it might be yes, because I'm no longer like paying to see films in London, because why would I see a film in London?
Right.
I think
as it's gone down to like, it's less than half of what we were paying. It's $9.99 each now.
Okay, no, mine's not cheap like that. Mine's like $15.99. But yeah, right. Rob, you're saying last film you saw?
Yes, I think the last film I saw in the cinema was Endgame. At this point, because I didn't go at all last year. I missed the cinema. Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. I can't recall if I saw anything after that point. I kind of want to go and see Godzilla vs. Kong because it's going to be ridiculous.
So I saw that at home,
cinema.
like I saw Mortal Kombat at home, but I think on the big screen that's going to be epic.
Exactly.
So
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
If I can take this guy with me.
The film I know I will be seeing opening night, Fast 9. I can guarantee I'll be there opening night for Fast 9, greatest franchise in cinema history. Bar none.
Greatest waste of time franchise,
Greatest films. It's all about family, mate. It's all about family. Drinking.
Cars go to space.
Yeah. Down.
No.
Down. Yes. Bring it. Bring it. Why not? I'm sure it'll be very realistic. I can't wait. I'm so hyped for that. John Cena, Vin Diesel fighting.
What?
Bring it.
What?
It's a documentary.
You did hear what I said, right? Cars go to space. Yeah, totally realistic.
They really did it. I know, genuinely very, very excited about that. But there's some films. There's some films coming. Like, so there's stuff on the horizon now, and it's like, we're going to see Black Widow finally.
Ooh, that I will actually be there for.
Finally going to come out and things like that. So hype for films, baby. They're back. Yes.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Shall we? Oh, actually, I have one more question for you, right? One more question for you. Now that you've finished Line of Duty and you're kind of between things, are you eyeing up a thing to get into?
Probably. I have a long list, so I'll probably go down said list at some point. It's a bit of a mental list, but yeah, there is not a short list of stuff that I need to watch and haven't yet.
Detectorists, if you haven't seen it already, should be on your list near the top.
Yes.
Yeah, I need to.
I'm reminding you.
Need to obtain that.
It's an iPlayer.
I don't have a TV license, therefore I'm not allowed to use iPlayer.
Does it stop you?
Yes. Oh. If I use iPlayer, I can be criminally charged.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. I love it. I love how it's probably easier to torrent something and not get done than watch it on iPlayer. Because you're probably.
I don't know what you could possibly mean, Ben. I'm good.
What about The Bodyguard? That's another Jed Mercurio joint. If you enjoyed Line of Duty, Bodyguard is good.
Same situation.
Or Unforgotten, which is also Jed Mercurio, which is an ITV one, but it's incredible.
Oh, that was excellent. Yeah.
I think Jupiter's Legacy is the next thing that I'm probably planning on watching.
I watched the first episode. I thought it was decent. If I should get back to it. Yeah. Should get back to it. Okay. Should we go into the news?
I've got the first story today.
You do, Rob.
So it's coming toward the end of the calendar month when we're recording this. So naturally, Games with Gold announcements are being made. So Microsoft has confirmed that on the Xbox One and Xbox Series X and S, The King's Bird will be available to download from the 1st of June to the 30th of June. And then on the 16th of June to the 15th of July, you've got Shadows Awakening. Then we have Neo Geo Battle Coliseum, which sounds ridiculous, between the 1st and 15th on Xbox 360 backwards compatibility. And then clearly the highlight of this month, I'm not being insincere, I legitimately mean this is the actual highlight, is Injustice Gods Among Us from the 16th of June to the 30th.
Jeez, they don't give a shit, do they? They really don't give a shit.
They're boasting $80 of value.
Come on,
Richard, I'll have you know.
Come on. Nobody knows about The King's Bird or Shadows Awakening because we've not played them, right? Exactly. They're going to be coming out, I think. They're new, aren't they? Yeah. They're new games? Yeah. Are they new games?
They don't do new games for Games with Gold.
So both of those games are old. I've just never heard of them because they're so obscure. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Oh,
yes.
Shit. All right, then. Okay. I have no idea. I normally am pretty good at this. When you go through games and go, yeah, I played, yeah, that's decent, or that's a good one. Got nothing.
Games with Gold has been a joke for months.
I wouldn't.
For years.
I wouldn't go that far.
Free stuff is free. That's nice, but it's not worth the Gold subscription.
Well, that's not. But
it's not a draw, is it? We said this last time I was on. It's not
every
a draw.
time PlayStation wins. Speaking of, what's PlayStation's offering this month?
Well, by contrast, it's pretty good. Not like stellar, but there's one standout which I'm pretty pleased about. So I'll start with that. Star Wars Squadrons is on PlayStation Plus, everyone. That's great news for me because I bought it on Xbox and sort of regretted it because I wanted to try the VR mode. Now I can. Excellent. So that's coming on June the 1st. We've also got something called Operation Tango, which looks to be probably, it's a co-op game, I think, which has sort of spy overtones to it. So you can play as an agent or a counter agent or something, and it looks like it's about hacking and that sort of stuff. But from what we've seen, it doesn't really reveal a lot of the gameplay. It just has that kind of spy, perfect dark sort of aesthetic to it, you know? So that sounds interesting at least, and that's for the PlayStation 5 version that's on PS Plus. And then finally we've got, oddly, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, which is a successor to Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown. So I don't know if there are any other synonyms for the word final or ultimate. Definitely the last Showdown, I guess, will come out next. But
we promise this is the last one. The game after that.
Yeah.
Sorry, we lied. Then comes afterwards.
I have been doing some research into those two games for Xbox while you guys were talking about PlayStation, because I think it's only fair. Shadows Awakening, and I'm also amazed that I don't know them. So Shadows Awakening, both of these games, by the way, have got a 7 out of 10 on Steam. But Shadows Awakening is an isometric single-player RPG, top-down, think Diablo action RPG. It looks pretty good. It looks like one of them. And then The King's Bird is an artsy 2D platform run and jumper.
Of course it is.
But again, nice visual style. Looks good. Yep.
I mean,
they're all things that would have sold low, so they can get them cheap.
Yeah,
isn't it? They're just doing the minimum they can do.
Yeah,
it does feel like it's the minimum they can do, isn't it? Yeah, it does feel like, well, what can we get? What can we get a decent price on this month? You know, we don't want to spend really any money, so
it's what they've been doing.
It needs to go away.
It's what they've been doing for years. Just sack off games with gold, sack off Xbox Live Gold subscriptions, and keep everything to Game Pass. Problem solved. Because the Game Pass editions are usually pretty stellar.
Yeah.
And then games with gold comes along like it's deformed younger brother, and it's just that's
it. You can't really complain, because if you've got Game Pass Ultimate, you're getting such a good deal.
Deformed younger brother.
Yeah,
God, that was good.
This is kind of like the appendix of game services now, isn't it?
Appendix of game services.
I'm sorry, just to anybody who has a younger brother with maybe like I don't know, some kind of deformity, I really do apologise for what Rob said.
Yes, I do highly apologise.
Let's blame it on the time of the morning. It's very early. Rob was a bit more off the mark than usual with that joke. Yeah, I do it. I'm yeah.
However, the appendix of the game services, I think that needs to be the hashtag of the show.
It just made me think of a bit from, we're going to talk about Psychonauts in a bit, but there's a bit when I'm playing that where somebody literally starts referring to Raz, the main character, as a spaz, and I'm like, yep, wouldn't get that nowadays in a video game. Nobody's calling anyone a spaz now. Jesus Christ. Anyway, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later, because we do have Game Pass Club coming up. Right, so it's my news story now, and we can't go a week without talking about Cyberpunk. And this one is kind of interesting, this story, because why would you care normally about a new game director for a game that has been released? You know, that does seem odd. That's even a news story. But because Cyberpunk is not a finished game and still has a lot of DLC to come and stuff like that as well, I think actually the news that there is a new game director in place is newsworthy. And this is a man called Gabriel Amantaglio, which sounds kind of Italian actually, but I don't know if it is, considering they're based in Poland. And I think the interesting thing about this guy is that he came on board as the sort of art team lead, and he's now a game director, and he's only been in CG Projekt Red since January of 2020. So he's only been there like just over a year and a half, not that long, and he's now game director on the flagship of their big new franchise title, which is Cyberpunk. And obviously the news is that they're going to be working Witcher and Cyberpunk in conjunction going forward. They're going to be developing both of these franchises basically for years to come. There will be more Cyberpunk games, I can guarantee that.
Oh, is that so they can finish Cyberpunk for years to come?
Pretty much. I mean, I still don't know. I don't think it's going to be fixed calendar 2021. I
don't think this is going to get fixed.
Oh, I think it is. But it's going to be a very long road. With the continued issues with the pandemic and the disruption that's caused, it's obviously only slowing things down. And I doubt it will be 2021 when they can turn around and go, it's done. I mean, it's also the other thing I wanted to mention in conjunction with this story was that there was another investors call, as they do I think every month for CG Projekt Red, and they were asked, when's this going to make it onto the PlayStation Store? And basically their comment was they're still in discussions with PlayStation. Every patch gets them closer, but at the end of the day, it's up to Sony when it comes back onto that platform, onto that storefront. So they have no ETA because it's not in their hands. So there you go. Like it'll be there when it's there. I can't believe it's still not there.
I still haven't played it, and that's, although I've got it on Xbox, PlayStation not listing it is sort of the canary in the mine. I guess until they do start selling it again, it's not worth playing yet, is it?
I think that's a really fair assessment, actually. Yeah, why? Yeah. Wait. When they're there, when Sony's happy with it. But the Sony decision, you have to remember as well, was a bit political, wasn't it? It was about how do you remember how CD Projekt kind of forced their hand on the refund process? And basically said, platform holders will give you your money back. And Sony were like, fuck you.
Will we?
No, we never said we'd do that. And they kind of forced them into that corner. So I do think there's just bad blood there now. Bad blood. So we'll see if it actually ever comes back. Ever.
I reckon give it a year before they say they stop supporting Xbox Ones and PlayStation 4s.
It's definitely coming back, because they'll need it for the next gen push. That's going to be heavily focused on PS5 because that's the front runner.
I just don't think that's this year. I don't think that's making it this year.
Maybe not.
Their revised roadmap was end of this year, but they're so quiet and all of that.
A year late. Just to put that in perspective, a year late.
Well, they were always going to do the enhancements later after release. So it's not exactly a year. They weren't saying it was going to be at launch, PS5 Series X, but but it's still ridiculous. It might be a year by the time it actually does come out. But yeah, that's more Cyberpunk news. We've always got some.
Somewhere I can hear Cam screaming in pain. Speaking, I think I'm up next, aren't I? No, not yet. I'm jumping the gun.
You are jumping the gun.
No, it's me now. Me now. Sort of news. Bioshock 4 is going to be using Unreal Engine 5, which is interesting because there aren't very many games using that yet. So a good example would be Senua's Sacrifice, Hellblade 2, which I am very excited about and looks fantastic in what we've seen so far. But a new Bioshock game from a new team, which has been in development since 2019, I believe. I don't think we've seen anything of it yet, but if that's using Unreal 5 tech, it should be something quite special. So hopefully we'll get to see that soon.
So I think I mentioned it last week, didn't I, Rob, when I was talking to you about Press Reset, the Jason Schreier book?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just there was a couple of chapters focused on Irrational, Ken Levine, Bioshock Infinite, the fallout of that. And Yeah, a non-irrational developed Bioshock. I know they've been. The thing is, though, is that basically immediately after all that went down, that they started on trying to make it work. In a new studio, and well, we haven't seen anything, have we? In a very, 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 very long time. And I think now would be the time to come back to Bioshock. I think a reboot, refresh, no, not a numbered sequel. Take some of the concepts of that, what do they call it? Immersive sim style gameplay. So what we see from Prey and stuff like that, and Dishonored games from Arcane, and do a new Bioshock. I think they're a cool concept. I do think it needs to be that it can't be a sequel because Infinite wraps things up, ties everything together in a way that really, what more is there to explore? So I think taking some of the loose ideas, we're ready for that.
When you've done the oceans and the skies, you've kind of got limited space to go. That feels distinct, and they did feel distinct from the usual, I suppose, sci-fi adventures. Like things like Prey. Prey actually was pretty good.
Prey was awesome. I love Prey.
Very good game.
Yeah.
But in terms of the setting, it didn't stand out, did it? And that's what really sets Bioshock apart for me. So yeah, I think for me, I would prefer to see it just rebooted and go back to the sea.
I think Prey was hampered a little bit by the abilities of hardware at the time, because I think if that space station had felt more like one contiguous environment rather than sort of closed off sections with loading screens and all of that, if they'd avoided that, it would have felt really cool. Like you could go anywhere, do anything at any time to work out, solutions to the puzzles, combat, or environmental that were in front of you. But because it felt very much like you're loading into different areas of it, it did feel a bit hampered by that. I think if they made that now with the loading tech we have, in the new consoles and the new PC architectures, it would be a more impressive experience. It's still really cool, but there's some great ideas.
I haven't gone back to it, but it might be still, because you can obviously play it back compat on Series X or S.
I think it's on Game Pass,
SSD technology. So
yes, it's on Game Pass. Yep.
So
maybe with the velocity architecture, maybe it would be less egregious.
Bioshock was one of my favourite franchises before. I'm one of the 4 people in the world who really enjoyed Bioshock 2. And Bioshock 1, that twist, which I'm still now, how many years later, still going to spoiler warning and not actually directly talk about. That twist at the end is one of my standout moments from video games. It's something that I did not expect.
The gameplay, I don't know if you've played it recently, though. I mean, the setting and the story, still great, but the gameplay has aged quite badly.
I played the remaster, I think, over a year ago. Yeah. And it was fine. It wasn't anything special. Bioshock 2 had what I would expect to be more modern gameplay. Closer to, but still a little dated.
Still pretty funky, though. Even in Infinite, it feels...
I haven't gone back to Infinite. I didn't really like Infinite that much.
Did you finish it?
Because I missed... Yeah, I finished Infinite. It was a bit up itself. But it was a new, interesting concept, but the underwater world worked better, I feel, rather than the heavenly area in the sky. So, I'm hoping they go back under the sea.
Talk about what you said about Infinite being up itself, right? While its approach to like politics and race was heavy-handed and not always well judged, I've got to at least respect the fact that they didn't pretend they weren't trying to do that. I get so annoyed about modern games, like especially from like Ubisoft, where it's like it's not political. We'll talk about that in a minute when we talk about Far Cry 6 and stuff, because they've already come out and go, it's not political. It's like, what the fuck, man? This, like, how could this not be political? Like, what are you talking about?
You raise a fair point. I'm not talking about the politics. I'm talking about the character that you are is actually the person you're trying to defeat, but then the person you're trying to catch is actually then the person you were looking for at the start of the game. And
Meta, man.
Quantum shite the whole way through. It's like, for fuck's sake, get a fucking grip.
Bacon your noodle, dude. Bacon your noodle.
Basically, yeah. What he's doing. It's like, okay, fine, having a bit of that, but don't have the person you're trying to defeat be you from another timeline when you're trying to find the person who's hired you to find herself because she went missing. No.
I kind of like that, though. It's ambitious, isn't it? It's like, it's really pushing what you can try and coherently tell in a story.
Enemy design wasn't as good as the Big Daddies.
No, not.
You know, they were just better.
Iconic. That Big Daddy.
Yeah.
Good year for video games, 2007. Mass Effect as well. Mass Effect, Bioshock. Great year. Great year for games. One of the best ever, I think, 2007.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Not that you're biased.
No, I'm not at all. No. But it is a really good year. It is a really good year. Should look at that. Right. Next up story, Rob.
Indeed. Yes, I was going to link this to Sony being slight killjoys. I'm actually going to side with Cyberpunk, weirdly, here, which is a new feeling for me. With Sony turning around and being the Spore Sports not letting Cyberpunk back on their store, they are now trying to crap all over crossplay again, because that's Sony. Borderlands 3 has a patch locked and loaded for full crossplay support, which is the good news Randy Pitchford tweeted out. Randy Pitchford, for anyone who doesn't know, is the Gearbox boss and part-time magician. No. Unfortunately, Sony are being left out because the publisher want aggressively large shares of revenue in the first couple of months. If I'm understanding the thing correctly in the link that we've got, they want 90% of the revenue from the first month and 60% of the revenue for the second for any money that comes from crossplay.
So what's money that comes from crossplay? What does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
I would assume new people purchasing the game and purchasing microtransactions and stuff through it.
Does Borderlands have microtransactions?
I can't recall. I know it has expansions and season passes, though.
Oh, hold on. Didn't we? Was this? I'm sure this came up a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about. I've been listening to another show.
Came out of the Epic, Apple stuff where PlayStation have been aggressively blocking crossplay for some time, but have actually opened up things a bit. But this would indicate otherwise.
This is why.
There were strings attached, though, so it was stuff like if you buy microtransactions on one platform and they are used on PlayStation want a cut of that.
Yeah.
Grim.
I don't understand fully the maths in the image that has been shared. It is in the Eurogamer link in the show notes down below. So if anyone would like to try and figure it out, by all means. But we've got PSN revenue share 90% and 60%, PS4 gameplay share 95%, and there's a lot of numbers here that I don't quite understand the relationships, but with those sorts of percentages being thrown around, you can tell their numbers are a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, that's interesting, because that looks like a slide from some kind of policy deck, doesn't it?
It is. It's their cross-platform policy. I think they've ironed it out now properly into policy, because they had to reveal it as it was subpoenaed during the Epic versus Apple trial. And they've gone, well, yeah, we do offer crossplay if you pay for it.
I just think, so
essentially they don't want it to happen, do they? So this is their have their cake and eat it moment where they can say, well, we'll allow it as long as we get all of the money, and no one's going to want to do that.
Exactly. So yeah, we're completely open to it, just with these conditions.
So crossplay on everything except the largest platform. Awesome.
Yes,
brilliant.
Which is really unfortunate because Borderlands thrives in multiplayer.
Oh, yeah.
It's always better playing with friends, especially when you've got in Borderlands 3 you have the option of cooperative loot where you each have your own loot pool. So there's not even that fighting over rare drops and stuff like that, because you have your own instance of loot if you're playing that way.
Shiza. Talking about crossplay, did I miss the Destiny crossplay test? I completely forgot. When was it?
Did I.
When was it?
Started Thursday. I think it finished
already?
yesterday.
Ow!
Yeah, I missed it as well.
I wanted that emblem.
I'm very sad.
God damn it. All right, so I'll move us on to the next story, but talking about more corporations making all the money. EA has come out and confirmed its Ultimate Team revenue for last year at $1.62 billion. So this is Ultimate Team revenue from across all their Ultimate Team products, but FIFA is without a doubt the one leading the way And what the number that blew me away from this more than anything, there's quite a lot of numbers in this story, again linked in the show notes. Also really good like statistics of showing how that revenue has grown from 2015 through to 2021. But the number that blew me away is that this 1.62 billion equates to 29% of EA's total revenue in the fiscal year of 2021. 29%. That is insane. So if you think about it, that means that nearly a third of all the money they make, so that's all the game sales, everything, comes just from Ultimate Team. You can see why they love it. You can see why it's in as many products as they can get it into sensibly.
It's frustrating for me. I mean, it's money for nothing, and you can see why they're not bothered about making another Dead Space or something when they can get that much money from just opening packs of cards. Christ. Depressing, isn't it?
I mean, again, I think that's interesting. I think how much does this drive the types of games and the IP they greenlight and actually create? Because unless you can leverage this into the IP, you've probably got a far less likely chance of actually even making it out the door with EA as your publisher. I mean, it's like if you don't have a way of putting this in your game, why would they care? Like this is where and you know this recurring revenue for them, this growing, you know, so like, you know, to give you an idea, it started in 2015 at well, I don't say started, but back in 2015, 587 million. We're now up to 1.62 billion. That's more than doubled in those 6 years.
I have the percentage growth. 275% growth in 6 years.
In 6 years. That's insane. You've got to love that as a businessman, haven't you? If you're running the EA ship, you know, God, you're gonna love this. I mean, there's some interesting discussion here in the Eurogamer article as well, pertaining to how obviously the British government are looking into, as are many governments, loot boxes, the legality of them. Is it gambling? Where does it sit? Should there be more regulation? Because obviously a large portion of this 29% is going to be coming from children, right? You know, we're not going to get into, you know, purchasing without permission, you know, parental controls. Who does that fall under? But I guess the wider question is this form of, you know, chance mechanic. Is it a gateway into more dangerous forms of that can really harm people and affect their lives? And I think if you're, you know, preventing children from smoking, you know, and not making, you know, it's not illegal to smoke, is it? But you can't under a certain age. Should there not be more regulation over MTX and stuff in the same way as there is with gambling on sports? So, I mean, what do you guys think about that? That's a wider issue there, isn't it, at play?
Complete that. I've got background working in a gambling environment. I, in a previous life, worked in a casino brand that's fairly common around the UK. It wasn't for a very long time, but I have that sort of background because they make you do anti-gambling addiction training and stuff like that because you want to call it out when you see it. The thing is, how do you police that in someone's home? Because if it's just confirming a date of birth, they'll just pick a different date of birth. You know, that sort of feature, I think, needs to be removed because it is just a way for them to make money for little actual value. For children, at least.
I don't think it's about saying it removed, because at the end of the day, if little Jimmy, who's 12, has got access to a console, then you have to put some onus on the parents to control what he's doing and monitoring his activity.
What about a 13-year-old?
Sorry?
13, 14-year-old. Someone who is older.
If it's your
fundamentally,
house, it's
right.
The same. I mean, these consoles do have really good, robust parental control methods right now. So you can restrict purchasing and require additional passcodes to be entered and stuff like that. But what it often comes down to is parents can't be bothered. That's effort, isn't it? Every time they don't want to get, you know, they just want to put Jimmy on the console and like leave him to his own thing in his room. You know, you don't want Jimmy coming down every 5 minutes going, "Oh, can I do this? Can I do that? I need to do this. I need your password. Can you come and enter your password?" Oh, it's too much effort. And it's like, well, there you go. That's there's some level here that has to be on the parent, doesn't it? But
agreed.
But I do believe there should be more regulation. I mean, I believe these things should be treated more seriously. It's one of those typical cases of, oh, it's games, it's, you know, it's kids stuff, whatever. We don't need to worry about that in government. Silly kid stuff. no, you do need to look at this. This does need to be looked at, and obviously, you know, how often is it? It must come up in the paper, like what, every month almost, where it's little Jimmy's gone and bought 4 million quid's worth of EA shit, and mummy's bankrupt now.
Yeah.
So it's
I tend to think there should be a restriction on the maximum amount that you can spend on a microtransaction, because it baffles me that you can call something a microtransaction and it could be a 3-figure sum. You know, that's mad.
Yeah. Best value though, Rich. Best value. It's always the best value.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You've got to get
usually with 80% off at the same time.
Yeah, but you shouldn't have things, you know, like £100 worth of crystals or whatever it is. That should not be possible.
Only if it's crystal meth in that situation, because you know you need at least a couple of £100 on that. You know,
Experience Kills does not recommend crystal meth, just as a point out there.
I've seen this done, but I don't know if it's a requirement that you can restrict the amount of purchases within a type of microtransaction as well. So say there's something available for £10, you'd be limited to buying that 3 times in a month,
like a cooldown,
like
a cooldown on a microtransaction. That's a
is
good
probably
idea.
the most sensible solution. Cap it at a price, so there's nothing that costs more than £10, because most families are in a situation where £10 is nothing, and put that in that you can only buy it a certain amount of times.
Good luck convincing EA to be good with that, though. Yeah, good luck.
Or put the age rating to any game that contains these to an 18, because even if that cuts off 20% of the people who would otherwise buy that's still a chunk of people who have been protected from it.
You see,
that's interesting.
That to me is the direction I could see them going. That to me about age gating anything with an MTX situation in it. That because it's easier to regulate, that, isn't it? It's easier for a government to be like, that's
make them all 18s.
Now. They're 18s.
And it makes sense. I mean, you typically think of age ratings related to whether there's blood in it or a swear word, but something as pervasive as gambling addiction, it's actually more harmful than that. I would argue.
I mean, come on, if we're going to live in a country where the nanny state is so pervasive that they're not going to allow bloody fast food advertising now before 9 o'clock at night on TV, let's protect people from things that are actually harmful.
Yes, but the difference is they take junk food seriously.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. This is serious. This can be very serious.
That's exactly what I'm saying. They take that seriously. They don't take this seriously.
Yeah, and they should. They should.
Oh,
I think we're all in agreement here. I mean,
100%.
You know, I personally do not have a problem with MTX fundamentally, like you guys do, but I do believe that regulation is important. If you're going to care about other things that seem to me utterly ridiculous, then let's look at something that can really ruin people, like really ruin people's lives.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with microtransactions. I have used them. I bought quite a lot on Gears Pop when it was on.
Oh god.
Oh
When it still existed.
Not surprised.
But even on that, I thought, flipping out, that there was stuff that's like 70, 80 quid that just no reasonable person would spend that money. And you've got to think there's got to be a few kids that have fallen into that trap. And I just don't think it's one that we should be inviting people into.
Yeah.
As long as they're responsible, I've got no problem with them at all.
I can't blame the publishers for getting into it, right? Making games has only got more expensive and more, and they've only got more risk averse, and revenue streams are to be exploited, hence capitalist society. But I think it is the onus on the government and society to regulate that if it's becoming an issue, which it is. And so,
the issue
1.62 billion, guys. And you could shave off a 6.2 off that, and they'd still be all right, wouldn't they? If they were just doing 1 billion, from over 18s, and that'd be okay, wouldn't it? I mean, that's still a lot of money. Jesus Christ, that's so much money. Right.
The issue. Never mind.
Move on.
Move on.
You got the next one.
Yes. So, Creative Assembly this week did an update on the state of Total War: Three Kingdoms, which is their Chinese historic Total War that they released a couple of years ago now, and it released really, really well. It was hugely successful. Loads of people have really enjoyed it. So naturally, Creative Assembly have turned around 2 years later and said they're ending support for it. The next patch is the last patch. No DLC, no patches.
I
finished.
Read this story, and I wondered include it or not. But then I think, well, yeah, Rob is a Total War guy. That's cool. So for me, 2 years of support, that's not bad. That's pretty good. However, I read into it more, and I saw comments along the lines of, so when are they so there's a whole northern area that they were going to fill in, they're not. And then another person was saying along the lines of, so when does the game actually start telling the story of the Three Kingdoms, because it never actually got to that part, or something to that effect. I've not played this game,
Exactly.
but if it's as egregious as that, that is pretty bad.
I haven't either. I was waiting for it to come down a bit because Warhammer has always been my preference now when it comes to creative assembly games. But it's after 7 DLCs over 2 years. Basically, most of the fans for CA, it's middling. Many fans, they're saying that CA have just quit on the game too early.
But they're making a new one, aren't they? That's what they've said. They're redirecting the team to making the sequel. Isn't that how this works? Isn't this the cycle of... I'm not sure I can be too annoyed about this, but...
They've redirected the team,
yeah,
but they haven't confirmed exactly where that's going yet, as far as I understand it.
Working on further projects in the Three Kingdoms, blah, 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 boilerplate. I could have sworn I
transitioned onto another project based on the Romance of the Three Kingdoms novel.
Yeah. So
but we've no idea what that means, and that what they're doing is, okay, yeah, we won't do any DLC for this. Instead, here's another game you need to buy.
Well, that's clearly what they're going to do. I mean, but they're making a Total Warhammer 3, that's coming out, and that's how game development works. So I mean, I'm a bit like disappointed. The fans are on their review bombing the shit out of it on Steam, turned it from mostly positive to negative within about 5 minutes, from what I can tell. Doing the thing that people do on Steam, which makes the whole system a joke. It's like, how can you trust these reviews? It just takes a community of assholes, or I say assholes, people that feel dissatisfied with something to really impact it, which is a bit unfortunate. I kind of hope Creative Assembly stick to their guns on this one personally.
But if they are not releasing an expansion that they promised because they'd rather remake or make another game, that's shady.
Well, what's probably more likely is they scoped that expansion and actually went, right, for the resources, what we want to do, and the time. This needs to be a game. This needs to be a whole game, not just DLC. I'm
going to disagree with that because of stuff that happened with Total Warhammer 2's development.
God, that's going back.
So,
what, medieval?
Yes. No, Total Warhammer 2. Sorry. Yeah. No, that's my fault. I probably sped over the word. They had a pre-order race. I think it was the... I've forgotten them. Oh, what are they called?
The Flurgelgurgs.
No, Wolfric the Wanderer and Throg the Troll. I forget their name. It was a faction that was a pre-order bonus that they said, will be fully playable in Total Warhammer 2 on release. It wasn't, basically, long story short. We had to wait 9 months because they needed to rebuild the entire faction from the ground up around their existing development pipeline. But because it was promised to the community, they did it. That's not what's happening here.
Okay.
They promised an expansion to the community and are now just going, fuck it.
I'm not deep enough in to like really comment on. I mean, it sounds like you're deeper into Warhammer as well, so you're not part of the community.
Much,
so,
yeah.
It's a business decision, no doubt, but it doesn't seem that abnormal, I suppose, to me.
It's frustrating that they're doing this because Three Kingdoms broke sales records when it released. That sort of Chinese history is not something we have a great amount of spotlight shone on.
12 Dynasty Warrior games or something that do it.
Okay, Dynasty Warriors, really?
There's a lot of them. And they're all about Three Kingdoms, bruv. Liu Bei and Keibu.
That's one franchise.
Yeah, loads of big games.
How many American modern history games have we got?
I don't know. 6? Do you want
100?
Okay.
So it's quite an underrepresented time period. So I'm glad. Well, I was glad that it was so popular. But it just,
we'll see
this
what they
was
do.
not a good choice.
We'll see what they do.
Come on, guys.
Maybe if they're that community driven, maybe they'll walk it back. We'll see what they do.
Yeah, they have huge engagement with their community, so there's potential here.
So we now move on to what will be the E3 time of the year, the every gamer's favourite time of year segment, which I imagine we'll be covering for the next month or so, as we head into this wonderful summer of game announcements, I really hope. Richard, hit us up with the first one.
Yeah, so Sunday, June 13th is the date to put in your calendars. And this is going to be the proof in the pudding for what Xbox have been saying for a very long time, that they are fully behind game development. The drought of first-party stuff will be coming to an end soon with all the new the new developers that they've brought up. Sunday, June 13th is going to be a game showcase for Xbox and Bethesda. So we'll see what's coming up, what the exclusives are going to be.
Sort of
Starfield.
Decent time of day as well, isn't it? Like 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, something like that in the evening for us in the UK.
Something like that.
Early.
The article I'm looking at doesn't give UK time, but it's going to be like early afternoon.
Yeah, because I'm very aware of the fun and games I used to, and I think you, Richard, joined me for a few of these years where we'd be up at 2 a.m. Watching conferences live and tweeting them. So 7 o'clock in the evening, I'm down with that. I don't need 2 a.m. 6 o'clock from Rob, perfect.
6 p.m. Yes.
6 p.m. That is a nice time. Sunday evening, chill out.
Get dinner prepared for before the show and eat while you watch.
Oh, I'm excited, guys. That's like 2 weeks away. That's 2 weeks this weekend.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Gonna be good. So
there's a lot riding on it, so you can expect to see more Halo Infinite, which we haven't really seen very much of apart from screenshots.
I don't think we will.
Yeah, I think we're seeing Halo. Well, they've shown some screenshots since the infamous showing where everyone thought it was awful.
Looks all right.
And they've gone back to the drawing board.
It's all right. They brought in some ray tracing. It's all good now.
Yeah, well, from the screenshots we've seen, does look nice.
Yeah, it does.
But it can't. We have only seen screenshots,
so let's see. They've got to include it in some way, haven't they, to at least talk about it?
Obviously, big Starfield reveal. Yeah, we're gonna get something big.
I would expect so. So we've been hearing that is likely to be Xbox PC exclusive now, and PlayStation noses are bent out of joint. So we'll see final confirmation of that. I would expect.
So sad.
The rumours for that now is late fall 2022 is what I'm hearing for Starfield now on the grapevine.
That's further out than I thought.
Yeah, well, especially as there were rumours towards the beginning of this year where they were aiming for a late 2021. So 2021, it's now back a year. So
COVID, so I can forgive that.
What else do you think we might be seeing? I think we might get a new Wolfenstein announcement.
Possibly, yeah.
Machine Head Games aren't doing much else as far as I know, so I think we might get a new Wolf. Which is
another Forza.
Yeah, we're going to see. Now the question is, obviously we were teased last year on the new Motorsport. We got that weird focus on like not car visuals, like people walking around.
Well, we've been teased on a bunch of stuff. There's a big list of first party stuff that we've hardly seen anything of. So Fable, Perfect Dark, Hellblade 2. Everwild from Rare. We don't know what that is, although we know the art style is pretty cool.
Stunning, yeah. I think we might. Yeah, I can see us getting some gameplay for Perfect Dark, maybe. Or I think we might get Forza Horizon new announcement.
Yes,
new location. Yeah. Where would we like to go?
Sign me out.
I'd quite like Japan. I'd be down for it.
I think there's been rumours of South America.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I could like a Brazil.
Mexico or something. Yeah.
Oh,
I was thinking like Dubai, somewhere like in sandy area.
Desert though, desert's a bit.
Yeah.
They did a desert. They did a desert track in the last Motorsport that was set around Dubai to show off like the sand physics, and it did look good. Like the sand blowing across the track and would get on your windshield and stuff and affect that. That was pretty cool. But the thing for me to bear in mind as well is I think we talked about this on a previous show is that Fable is using the Forza engine. So I'm really excited to see if they can show us some third-person Fable and what that looks like in that engine, because that could be stunning. If they leverage that well.
Maybe that's why Fable is using the Forza engine, because they were doing the work with the crowd in Forza Motorsport that they teased earlier. I think they had the development of that, so actually we can adapt that and push that further when it comes to characters.
Is it Playground Games are making Fable, aren't they?
Yeah.
So that's the Horizon developer who works with Turn 10, who's the Motorsport developer. But yeah, their second team is developing Fable. I think Fable's a good 2 or 3 years out. But it'd be great to see more. I just wonder if it's ready yet. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be a big deal. This show is going to sort of set out, the next couple of years of this generation, and it's exciting. I hope they've got some cool surprise. Hope it's not just stuff we know about. I do hope they blow out some of this stuff, but I want surprises. Bring some new IP to the table.
Talking of, I don't think Fable is something we'll see because the last we saw of Fable was Fable Legends, which was a disaster. So that's one of the games that got to completion almost. It was in beta for a very long time, and I played a bit of it, and then it just got completely canned.
That was the asymmetric multiplayer one, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So after that experience, I think they won't want to show Fable until they know it's going to be a goer.
You know what I want to see? Scalebound Resurgence.
So do I.
I say it just to annoy Ben. No, I would like some infrastructure changes. Maybe this will be the point where they say in September, gold will be gone. They've done big infrastructure reveals at these events before, unveiling consoles, that sort of thing. Maybe this year they change how the network of gaming functions. That could be something that they turn around and do then. We don't know.
They do need to get headlines. I think from what we were saying earlier about the cross-play barriers that PlayStation are putting up, that tells me that they feel like they're in a comfortable position. And we haven't really seen sales figures, have we? And they may not be representative anyway with the console shortages. However, they wouldn't be doing that if they didn't feel like they were in a strong lead.
Exactly.
So I think that Xbox still needs to make some headlines and give some strong messages of the kind that you're talking about. Make online play free, that sort of thing.
Yeah. While I think that's coming, I don't think that's at this event. I think this event is games, because they know they have to stand up to PlayStation with their very strong first-party lineup and go, hey, we got that too now. Chill the fuck out.
Possibly, yes.
I don't think we get anything hardware or OS or any of that. I think this is all going to be world premiere like that, in that voice they have, which is awesome. It always gets me excited whenever you see that. In related news, so I didn't give this a separate thing. I don't know if you guys saw this. Game are doing a flipping awesome trade-in deal right now to get an Xbox Series S at a very, very reasonable price. So if you're in the UK, take a look at that. It's probably on the website. I believe you have to go into the store in person and stuff and trade in, various things. But anything from an original Xbox, you can trade in and get a Series S for only 99 quid, 100 quid. But basically, if you go up to like a 1X, you can get it for about 50 quid. So I personally think the Series S is my standout piece of hardware from this generation because what it does in its form factor with its power is really impressive. How it still leverages that velocity architecture, the improvements on load time. If you're not running 4K, it is a must buy. It is, as a Game Pass machine, from that perspective, it is such a great little console to have and has really blown me away with what it can do. So to be able to pick one up at, say, 50 quid if you've got a 1X, while those teraflops don't compare, if you're not running that 1X through a 4K machine, a 4K TV or whatever, a monitor, it really makes no difference. The Series S will give you all of what that does and more, and perform better.
I want my Terra to flop as much as possible, thank you very much. So I think
the way they've approached that hardware, so smart, like one of the best decisions they've made. So yeah, really good deal, really good deal. If you can find it, call your game up first. Make sure they got stock, because they might not, because these things are going quick. But really good deals. I've got the next.
Actually tempting that. I might actually do that.
I have two 1Xs, Richard, and I'm thinking about trading one in and getting myself another Series S, just because I would pop it in my bedroom. So
what?
Yeah.
Why not just put your Series X and your 1X in the bedroom?
So I've got 1X in my 4K TV downstairs. Then I'd have a Series S in my office and a Series S in my bedroom. So.
Why?
Why not? Why not, baby? Well, I've currently got two 1Xs. I don't need two 1Xs, do I? I'm keep hold of one because it's the Cyberpunk one, but I can get rid of the other one. It's an awesome console. It's my favourite limited edition. I love the look of it. Anyway.
The irony attached just makes me giggle every time.
I know. It is pretty ironic. Yes, I agree. Never played the game on it, ever. So, right. Next story. Koch Media are getting in on the big announcement train, and you're like, who the hell is Koch Media? Right, Koch Media are the guys that own Deep Silver, amongst other pretty large European, often based triple indie or double A sized teams and developers. So these are the guys behind things like Saints Row, Dead Island, and Metro. And they've got an announcement coming at Game Fest, and I believe this is happening on the 11th of June at 8 p.m. UK time. And basically all of their big franchises, like I've just mentioned, sort of the Saints Rows and the Metros and the Dead Island, they're all kind of between releases. It's actually been a really long time since we had a Saints Row game, like a proper one. It's been obviously a long time since Dead Island. Where the hell is Dead Island 2? And Metro kind of wrapped up its thing with Exodus, but 4A Games has also been very vocal in the fact that this is not the end for Metro. There will be more. So I think there's a good chance we get announcements of all three of those. I don't think they'd be doing a big announcement show like this if there wasn't something to talk about, because it's not something Koch Media have done before. So I am pretty excited about this, because these are all series, especially Saints Row and Metro, that I'm pretty big into. I really love Metro, and I've always said I prefer Saints Row to GTA. So I would be hyped to see any of this. I'm quite excited about what they're going to show.
There's a lot of potential here. I'm not so fussed on Dead Island, not so fussed on Metro, but another Saints Row, if it's done in the right way, could be really, really good fun.
Richard, you also like Metro like me, don't you?
Yeah, I do. I do like Metro. Weirdly, I haven't really played a lot of Exodus, but I've played the first two games a couple of times each. So, yeah, I am invested in the series, and I think Exodus is on my list to go back to. Kind of just waiting for the next gen update before I bother, I think, now.
Yeah, it's on its way.
Yeah.
I know the PC version of that's come out now, so hopefully the console version won't be too far off. I definitely want to revisit it. I have beaten it, but I think I'd go back with an enhancement. Yeah, because the lighting, I've heard it's going to be like ray tracing and the works. They're doing all the loveliness with it, so it should look incredible.
And it looked great at the time, didn't it? But yeah, any improvements, will look lovely.
On to the next one, Rob.
Indeed. So, what has been long rumoured is now even more rumoured for E3 this year. So we've been hearing rumours of a Nintendo Switch Pro for a while now. Or a Nintendo Switch 2, or however they want to name it in Nintendo. And supposedly we are getting news of that before E3 this year. But that's only a rumour, to go with all the other rumours that exist because of this. So, I know, I would hope in a Switch 2 or a Switch Pro that they either up the graphics or mostly up the battery. That's what I would want. Better battery, please.
I think a better screen. I've heard rumors of an OLED screen, higher resolution in handheld mode, stuff like that would be nice. I think it's easy to forget that the Nintendo Switch has been with us now for quite a while. I think we're about 5 years now since the Switch came out. Is it 4 or 5 years?
Held up remarkably well.
Maybe 4.
Yeah, it's longer than you realise, because it's kind of always felt like it's been quite hard to get hold of. So it's like always had that sort of like that newness demand. Well, I mean, the last year and a half it has been.
The last year is slightly different.
But no, it's never been like stacked up on shelves. I mean, they've always been.
Seen it.
Sorry?
I've seen it.
Okay.
It has been.
All right.
In the last year, you're definitely right, but they have been around.
They don't very often knock much money off them, though, do they? I mean,
no, that's the thing.
The core Switch is still comparable in price to a Series S, for example.
Yeah, I'm ready for a new installment of this. I think it's time. I don't think it's a Switch 2. Or a direct sequel. It's going to be a mid-generational upgrade, so I wouldn't expect a huge bump in internal performance, but battery life, screen resolution, better Joy-Con reliability / feel. I mean, they could do with redesigning the Joy-Cons a bit. I think they are not
no drift.
They're not they're just not good. They're just not good controllers. But it kind of doesn't matter considering the portable nature of the console. I guess you kind of you let that go.
Yeah, I was going to say it's relative. As far as handheld consoles go, they're the best controllers ever. It's just it straddles that line, doesn't it? Where it is a home console too. So when you compare it to a DualShock or whatever, yeah, it doesn't have that same impressiveness as when you just compare it to a Vita or whatever.
I do think it's still a remarkable piece of hardware. And I am excited to see where they go with it next. Absolutely. But yeah, rumors upon rumors upon rumors. Nothing's confirmed as yet, though. I feel like at this point, if this doesn't happen, I'll be very, very surprised.
It will happen. You just look at Nintendo's track record. They bring out a revision almost every year. There's not many years that go by where they don't.
So
it's just when.
On to the next sort of 3 combined stories. So with E3 coming up, we're starting to get developers coming out and showing off games that are due in the next 12 or so months. And because of the nature, obviously, that E3 no longer exists and we're all doing this at home and it's digital and these developers have realised, you know what, we don't need a big show to show off our stuff. Let's have something everybody's focused on our product at that time, and we can go into it a bit more. We've had 3 games show up. We've had Dying Light 2, we've had Horizon Forbidden West, and we've had Far Cry 6, all of which have had, 10 or so minutes of trailery gameplay goodness. So let's first of all talk about Dying Light 2, which was kind of been radio silent for about 2 years, I think it's been, since it went very, very quiet. And Dying Light 2, it now has a new subtitle, Stay Human. And I watched the video of this. I quite liked the first game. Obviously, this was made by Techland, who made the first Dead Island, who then left that, and then they came off and made Dying Light instead, and sort of progressed those mechanics forwards into that kind of parkour, open world zombie survival game. I remember when it came out, it was really good. It sort of stood apart from the rest. There wasn't a lot of games like it. It felt quite fresh and new. It still feels quite good going back to it now. But yeah, that was all the way back in 2015, guys. So that's a long time ago, Dying Light.
Yeah.
So yeah, what did you guys think of this sequel? Did it get you excited? Did it interest you?
I'm not sure, because I did enjoy Dying Light a great deal, and then the DLC came out, and I kind of got halfway through that after really liking the first game. And I didn't get through the DLC, and I don't know if that's just I got fed up with just the mechanics of it, because it's quite a sprawling game, and there's something about the idea of parkour, which is fun in, I suppose, isolated areas, but when you're talking about traversing big fields, the parkour element is lost a bit, isn't it?
Well, they gave
there was a lot
in the DLC. You get like
gave you a vehicle.
You get a buggy.
Yeah, you got a vehicle. Yeah, but something about that lack of tactility with the environment, just driving around, made it feel more of like a Far Cry experience rather than what I'd enjoyed in the first.
I think it's interesting because you can sort of see the developer mindset there, right? Oh god, we're so bored of cities and buildings. Let's do fields and openness, and then hold on, we've just now lost the USP here. We've completely lost what it is, what a Dying Light game is by doing that, by going open like that. It was called The Following, wasn't it? And it was That's just right. Sort of like, it was like you said, Far Cry. It was like, well, I can get that elsewhere. So you can see in Dying Light 2, they've gone back to the big city, the final bastion. It's like years later. It's the final holdout of humanity. There's a big choice system in play here. There's 3 different factions you can align with. So there's humans, there's zombies, there's strategy about when you do stuff at night, during the daytime. And I mean, I was looking at it and I just got this sense of like, I'm not sure I need that level of oppression in my gaming life right now. That just looks stressful and upsetting. I'm not sure I'm in the right place for that right now in my life. Saying that, I might feel different come December the 7th, which is the current release date. Whether or not it hits that, I think the chances are quite good that it won't. So we'll probably be seeing this game next year. But I don't know. What did you think, Rob? I take it you're not got an affinity for the first game, but did this?
I haven't played the first game.
You can usually get it really cheap now. It's worth checking out.
Yeah.
First game
The
was
second
really
game,
good.
it looked all right, but I'm conscious that it's a trailer and a gameplay breakdown. They're going to show you the best bits. You can't ever go into them with an unbiased view because you're being shown cherry-picked elements.
But you can go in being optimistic and looking at how good it could be.
Let me finish my point, man. What they did show was really good. This is the thing. It looks interesting. What intrigued me most is that tagline of "Stay human." By the looks of it, it's not that game over mode where you become a zombie. So maybe there's that possibility where you could get traits of theirs and that sort of thing. That's what they seem to be implying. And what I'm reckoning is that they're going, okay, let's show the safe stuff that everyone knows about. But there was this sequence where you break into one of the zombie or infected, I don't know what they're called in this universe, their nest while they're out at night, and you inject yourself with something, and then at the end, you fall down and you're having a fit in convulsions and stuff because some sort of change is upon you, and it implies at least that maybe you're going to be able to take on some elements of the infected or the zombies, which could lead to some very interesting gameplay mechanics. If you can transition between going from human to zombie to do some parkour elements or some combat elements, and then have a limited amount of time to find something to heal yourself, that could be quite interesting.
Yeah,
so maybe that's what they're teasing.
Kind of that, like, the element of lycanthropy when you're dealing with werewolves, where it's like, but I am a creature, but I'm also kind of in control of that to a degree. So I can, you can weaponize it. That would be fun. Imagine if you're fighting enemies, you're hand to hand and you're struggling, and then you get your power up, and then you fight the same enemy. And you just put your fist. Fist goes right through his face, and it's just oh, okay, cool. I can do shit now. That could be a real.
And you become the zombie sort of thing.
That would be really exciting. That would certainly set it out, wouldn't it? That would certainly, and as long as it's not just the Dead Rising idea of you get infected, now it's a race against time just to not die from it. That
would be
quite
really
cool.
bad.
Yeah, so let's not do that.
I'm hoping.
I like the idea of like a periodic summon, so it's like an organic Titanfall sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only what they seem to imply by "stay human." So who knows? It's got a bow and arrow in it, so that's certainly a plus point for me. The whole parkour running around turns me off, but the fact you can spec into combat turns me back onto it again. So I'll just be the guy walking down the middle of the street with a baseball bat, knocking heads. Problem solved.
So, it definitely looked the most interesting of these three. Yep, I'm going out there, and I want to see if anybody wants to counter that. For example, Richard on Horizon. But before we talk about Horizon, let's quickly touch on Far Cry 6.
There's a dog in a wheelchair. That's
dog in a wheelchair. You're playing. It's all about guerrilla warfare, asymmetrical warfare. So you're the underdog, and you're using the resources available to you to fight this army of oppressive, nondescript Caribbean but somewhat communist styly bad guys.
So it's just another Far Cry game crossed with Just Cause.
I couldn't see a lot about it that really stood it out. Like, they've doubled down on the gaminess of it, with customizable vehicles with silly attachments and ridiculous guns and stuff, shooting CDs and things like that. Like, they seem to have really gone for the whole, this is just a fun sandbox, let's just give the player as many silly options as possible, rather than let's actually try to tell a cohesive story. Which, if you think about it, you go back to like Far Cry 3, that was definitely about character, narrative, and about some level of believability, whereas this has now gone completely batshit bonkers with rocket launching backpacks and what the hell was like. This was mad. This was kind of like crazy, incoherent game for game's sake. I don't know how I felt about this. It might be fun, but it just looks so by the numbers at the same time.
It looks like they're trying to take a leaf out of Saints Row as well at the same time. Do the crazy, wacky stuff! And just in a different, more violent vein. And it looks fine. The last Far Cry game I played didn't grab me hugely, so I definitely won't be picking this up on release, but I'll be keeping an eye on it. It looks interesting.
Before I talk about another point, Richard, like impressions from the gameplay, anything?
I've never been able to get into Far Cry, and you know what my issues are with Ubisoft games in general. They do feel by the numbers.
Do you know what? Do you know about Ubisoft games in general? Do you know what felt like a really calculated decision, which was to focus on the female customization protagonist through this trailer? Like the whole time, I was like, great to see a woman character. However, they then mentioned, oh no, it's customizable. You can be a dude or a chick. You can make it whatever you want. And then it was like, and the whole thing was from the women. But it just being Ubisoft, it just felt very much like we need to make sure these trailers show the woman. And it's just like, ugh. You just miss the point, don't you? You're just missing it, guys. Like, we know what you're doing. It's very obvious.
They come across as desperate, don't they? It's like, well, what do you want us to say? What do you want to hear? And that's what they'll do. It turns me off.
And then all the post comments about it not being political, and it's like, for fuck's sake, you're a guerrilla warfare in an oppressive island state dealing with a military dictator. You're not going to do anything political. You're going to avoid
this isn't based on Cuba.
You're going to avoid any potential commentary on anything to do with like oppressed minorities or Western influences on these type military propped up. Because this military, by the way, dictatorship was installed during a bloody revolution. They already say that in the trailer, and it's like, so you're not going to talk about how he was funded or how he made that possible. None of that's going to come up. How do you make this game without anything being political in it? It's just going to be hollow.
Such a waste, isn't it? Especially when they've got a great character actor on board as well. I don't know how they're going to use him, but Giancarlo Esposito's in this from Breaking Bad and
others.
Mandalorian.
The other thing.
Yes, the Mandalorian. Of course he is. Yeah. Moff Gideon, isn't he? Yeah, that's what I saw him in last. Yeah.
So great actor. When they say they're not going to make it political, it means they're not really going to have any narrative of substance. That's what I hear.
I mean, boil it down even more. Do you know what it means? It's going to be boring.
Yeah.
It's just going to be, and I think that's what that gameplay, while it looked on the surface, CD gun, rocket launcher backpack, that sounds fun. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, actually, but if there's no reason, it's just another sandbox with toys. And we've played a lot of them now. Ubisoft make them well, but even I'm starting to get kind of a bit burnt out on that. Like, there has to be a reason to do this. If there's no reason, I just won't connect with it. So,
it struck me as a good 30 quid game.
Oh, yeah, well...
wait for it to come down to about 30 quid and then give it a go.
Depending on how it's received, that could happen within about 3 weeks. Because look at Watch Dogs Legion. Like, exactly. That dropped down half price within 2 or 3... Immortals Phoenix Rising, another one. That got half priced within 2 weeks of launch. So, like, unless it's an instant win, you won't be waiting long. So I don't know. So, right, let's talk about Horizon, right? I don't know what to think. Like, it looked lovely.
Have you played the original?
Yes. I didn't complete it.
I wasn't wowed.
I didn't complete it, but I bounced off of it. I don't love the combat, and the problem is this trailer showed a lot of that combat, and I was just like, yep, that still looks really boring.
All it did was go, we know how to sequel, because they've built on enemies, they've built on combat, and they've built on exploration. That's what any good sequel should do. Good job. Get a gold star for doing the bare minimum.
I think one of the problems they might be dealing with is that I think the sequel is going to have... The story is going to be very much a follow-up to the first game. And they're being very careful, I think, in this trailer, is at least not to spoil what happens in that game, because the reveals in it, and I haven't got to them, right, because I bounced off, but I've looked into it. They are really cool, and it makes me want to go. It's got some really cool sci-fi concepts in that game, so I think they're being careful not to give that away, which is a similar problem to Far Cry. Just showing combat and pretty visuals are great, but if there's not a hook, if there's not a reason, why do you care? And I don't think the combat of Horizon is its strongest suit. I think Horizon was all about what do you see over the next hill, and it's all about those next visual reveals in such a beautiful, unique world. Fighting a giant robot fucking elephant, with that kind of really quite slow-paced, tedious, run away, fire a few arrows, run away, fire a few arrows type of combat, which is what you
I don't think it was tedious, but it did look very scripted. And this is kind of what you were saying, Rob, about Dying Light. they can promise a lot in the trailer, but how does it feel in gameplay? And I don't think if you played Horizon, you would end up looking like that trailer did. In terms of how that battle played out, it's very scripted. There were some issues of juddering. I don't think that was just the stream. It seemed to happen when there was a lot happening on screen.
I thought I noticed some frame drops.
Yeah.
I was quite surprised by that.
Low quality stuff.
I was really surprised. Why do a video of a vertical slice that you haven't optimized fully? It just felt strange to me. That I thought I was dreaming. I'm glad I wasn't.
It could be bad compression for the stream. To be fair,
no, it looked more like it was a game starter. Like it really looked in game to me when I saw it.
I'm being optimistic there on that one.
They might fix it. I'm just saying that's something that I saw in the video. That said, I think it has less to prove than something like Far Cry, because even though it doesn't focus on its story or its reveals, I think you can trust that they will be there. This is a Sony, it's first party, isn't it? They own
Guerrilla.
Guerrilla. So you can trust that's going to be in there. And I haven't finished the first game either, but I suppose that's why I'm more attracted to this, because it's more of an unknown quantity. I kind of know what Far Cry is going to be like, kind of know what Dying Light's going to be like. But even for all the reasons that I did bounce off the first one, there's a lot there that's calling me back, and I want to play that before I try this. And I'm sure there's lots in there that will be intriguing in terms of story and visual design.
Call me
and
crazy.
I just want to play it.
Call me crazy, but it didn't look like that much better than the previous game, did it?
No, I don't think it looks insanely good. It's good, but not crazy.
Honestly, I think the biggest problem that world has is the endemic level red grass that's everywhere that allows Aloy to blend in and just squat in some tall grass.
Also, her head seems to be stuck above it. And I'm like, you'd notice that, wouldn't you?
Yes, I am here. It's fine.
It's not like she's hidden in it. You can always see her head above it. And I'm like, that's weird stealth.
I thought that. I mean, she's up against robots, but then there was people on the back of them in this.
And they're
trailer,
like up high as well. They're looking down. Chip, there's a chip in the grass over there. Do you think we should do? Oh no, don't worry about it. She's just hanging out. It's fine. Oh, okay, cool.
She appears to be weirdly swapping between weapons, checking configuration and pausing and unpausing. Wow,
you have played it. Okay, you have played it. That was one of the things I hated about it, juggling all the different arrow types. Did my bloody head in. But some people love that combat. It just, I don't know. I should go back to it. So that's the stuff. That's some stuff. It's starting to happen. We're getting games. We're getting announcements. We're seeing videos. Those three were kind of underwhelming, though. I hope things get better. Before we wrap it up, in confirmation that the internet is a terrible place, did you hear about all the horrible Horizon fanboys slamming Aloy for putting on some weight? Did you see that?
Oh God, no, I didn't.
She looks like a real person now, but that means she's ugly and shouldn't be a protagonist.
Oh, fuck off!
So that was
zero tolerance for that from me, as you can tell.
The internet is a wonderful place. That really, we're so glad it gives a voice to everyone, aren't we? Isn't it the best?
If that's something that you think, person watching this, basically put your controller down, sell your PlayStation, and sod off. Not interested.
I'll definitely be buying that game now, just to spite those people.
Also, I mean, if I get a PS5, I'll definitely be buying it. Yes, I just need a PS5 first. I nearly bought one.
I'll wait a couple of years, buy a PS5 when they're cheaper, because the PS6 is due to be announced.
You nearly got one the other week, didn't you? And
so I had one.
out.
I had one on the Amazon in the basket, ready to go, and then I went, and just stopped myself. So
you mean you don't want to play Returnal?
I really don't. The more I find out,
I really want to.
I really don't. Anyway, let's move on, because I'm time conscious and we're getting towards Rob's hard out here. Though he said there's a bit of squeaky room here, so we might go over that a little bit. But let's talk about our Game Pass Club game for this episode, which was nominated by Richard last time, I believe. Psychonauts, the very, 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 very highly regarded Double Fine platforming game from the original Xbox. So we're going back a good few years here, and I do think that's important to bear in mind when we talk about this game. However, yeah, so I want Richard to start us off because I can already see Rob's position just from his face. So, Richard, this blew my mind that you'd never played this, that this is such a Richard game. In my thoughts, was I correct in this?
This is definitely a Richard game. And I hadn't really clocked what sort of game it was. So even though I knew it was well regarded, it was kind of a big deal that it was on Xbox, it kind of passed me by somehow. God knows how. But so it's like a 3D platformer with lots of stuff to collect. And that's totally what I'm about. I love that stuff. That said, you're right to say it's old, and that gives it some excuses. But it does feel old now, doesn't it? So I think the basics of it are there. It's got a reasonably functional double jump. It doesn't quite feel as good as the...
It took me a while. It took me a while to work out the timing on that. I did not... I fell down that hole so many times until I got a handle on that double jump.
It feels slightly too late, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You have to really...
it doesn't work. You have to really jump before you get to the edge. Or it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can't jump on the edge. It's like animation priority. And then you have to I always felt like I had to wait a beat longer than I thought I should to actually use it. Yeah, it was it took a bit of relearning. But then I did start to get it. What else? I mean, the
camera angles.
I was going to say.
The camera was, at that time, no one had really solved 3D platforming camera issues. Not even Mario 64 did it. So you can forgive it that. But...
They do have a way around it, don't they? Because you can click the right stick, and go into first person view. So if you do need a better understanding of your surroundings, you can just go into first person. So
you can, but it removes that immediacy from platforming, doesn't it? So there's bits where you've got to jump on wires and transfer between them, and the camera's just too tight for you to gauge the distance between wires, and it is quite frustrating. And the whole thing feels a bit clunky, as you would expect, being such an old game. That said, I like the idea behind it, and I like the concept, and it's got me excited for what Psychonauts 2 might be. That's been delayed a few times, and we haven't really seen very much of it. But we should get to see some of that, maybe.
I think we will. I think that's this year. So I think that could actually be this summer. I have a feeling that's coming very soon.
Well, they've only just put this in Game Pass, so I'm taking that as a hint.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good point. It's like playing this, I was like, yes, the sequel could be amazing. The biggest thing for me playing this, before we get to Rob, the biggest thing for me was that this felt more like a pitch for a animated film than it did a game.
Yeah.
There is a lot of dialogue and character work in this game.
I noticed that. Yeah, it took me a while to get to it took me a while to play anything. That opening cutscene is so long.
Oh, but it keeps happening. I put it comes up continuously when there's a lot of dialogue in it for a platformer, a lot of character work, and I think this would be an amazing film. Right, this concept is brilliant. I think I'd rather watch this than play it. Because like we said, mobility, cameras, absolutely correct. Combat, the distance for your attack compared to what you'd expect, actually lining stuff up felt like shit. Ranged attacks are better, but difficult sometimes when dealing with multiple enemies because of the kiting and the camera. Again, it's really hard to actually understand where they are. I also didn't love level design. I loved the kind of the art of the levels and the ideas behind the levels, but actually the arrangement of the platforms themselves and knowing where to go and how to get there, I often found that very kind of not obvious and counterintuitive, and I'd get lost and trying to work out what I was meant to do. I did think it's interesting. The checkpointing from death is really good, but don't rely on an autosave if you want to quit and come back, because this is the era of manual saving. And if you do that, the likelihood is you'll be starting from the beginning of the level, regardless of where you leave the level. If you quit out, you're going to the beginning. But death checkpointing was much better, which I always found it's like it knew it seemed to always know when it was a difficult area that was probably too confusing for the player, because you die and then restart straight like where you were immediately. Like it knows, yeah, game design maybe not the best here. So I mean, it just felt like that to me. It felt like it was an acknowledgement of how the level was not great. I don't know. There's a lot of cool ideas in here, and I can see, right, if you played this when this came out, this would have been groundbreaking in its like dealing with story and narrative and character and the world and the design, and actually what we're complaining about, the traversal stuff, would have been very good back then. But by today's standards, this thing feels clunky and dated and slow and just overly kind of annoying. It's not hard, because I never felt like I was close to death or I couldn't just do a quick restart or whatever and go back. That it's not hard in that way. It's just my game flow, the flow of it was always being broken up by something.
Just a bit niggly, isn't it? I mean, you look at stuff like the new Ratchet and Clank, and you think, well, if this had the polish of Ratchet and Clank, that would be something special. And maybe that's what we'll get with the sequel.
Rob.
But yeah, it's still enjoyable. And actually, even though it is really old, some of the character design looks pretty good for the time, doesn't
very
it?
Tim Burton, very weird and cool, and yeah, I like the look.
I think my best way to summarize it would be suitably dated, but there's a lot of potential that could be had from that for Psychonauts 2. I did not get past the point where they need you to punch 20 things in a minute. I tried that 10 times and got 19 10 times and almost threw my controller out the window.
Yeah, I did it first time as well, because they kept saying how you have that character mode, don't you? It's like, this
characters in the background. Yeah, go Raz. Shut up.
I mean, after 10 times, that probably would get annoying.
After 2, it was getting annoying.
I did that first time. I did that first time with like 25 seconds left on the clock as well.
I had loads of time left.
It's because he doesn't go exactly where. It's because he doesn't go exactly where you want him to and doesn't punch exactly when you want him to. And with the speeding up of the cooldown of how long those boards are around for, by the time I'd get to it, it would be gone. Queue 30 seconds.
Go to the centre after you've punched one. That's what you do.
Well,
return to the middle.
That is the point, but that's easier said than done for that traversal. The controls in that game are terrible.
They aren't great. They aren't great controls.
But if it had the polish of Ratchet and Clank or the polish of Jak and Daxter, if it actually jumped when you told it to jump, then it would be fine. The style of the game is very Tim Burton. A couple of the character beats, I think, went a little bit too far into some tropes, like the bully character with a very long, thin neck. I wanted to punch after a sentence.
What was it?
I'm gonna get Raz the Spaz! Raz the Spaz!
I was like,
didn't even see that line, would have hated him more.
I do think some of the dialogue's funny, though. Like when he gets to that bridge and there's something. Raz gets to a bridge and there's some people trying to stop him going across. I was like, well, I need to get across the bridge. And they go, well, you should have thought of that before. And he says, well, I did. That's why I'm here.
See, the writing sounds brilliant, and I was expecting a shorter beginning cutscene. That was really impressive. The idea that you're going into these people's minds is really impressive. Like, if it had modern gameplay for that setting, even just that skin on a modernly reacting platformer, I would still be playing it now.
Yeah, well, that's what 2 looks like. I mean, from what I've seen of it. I mean, 100%. Yeah, the dialogue and the characters and the setting are the best thing about this. No doubt
100%.
about it. I like the summer camp concept. I really like that. Yeah. I love how weird everything is. Like, I don't normally love that, like the surreal stuff. It doesn't always work, but I think with this art style, they really pull it off. Especially with the setting being in people's minds, it's great. I really like, my favorite character is Agent 9, spelt Nein, I believe it is. I really like him.
Agent No.
And he's just, I love the bit when he like comes to talk to Raz after the first level, and he like teleports in, and then he sort of like levitates a cigarette into his own mouth to smoke it with his mind power. So he's just so boss, like he's just such I'm a cool dude. I don't even need to use my hands to smoke. Wouldn't see smoking in a video game now, I can tell you that much.
No.
But
Or the use of the word spaz.
well, yeah. There's some cool stuff in here. I just couldn't get over how it felt like it would be a better film than a game. I really couldn't. It's like Pixar, Double Fine and Pixar could have made something amazing together with that idea. Like it just feels like it would have been perfect marriage there. I'm curious to see what happens with 2. I'm glad it's going to be in Game Pass because I would not buy this kind of game, but I will play this kind of game. It's probably
and that's really the strength of Game Pass.
Yeah, exactly. And I think this is our first one where we've not been super positive. I think where we've had quite a lot of caveats and borderline negativity towards the game that we've played, and I think it's really interesting because this is very much an artifact of the time it came out, and I can totally see why people have strong connection and nostalgia to this game. I just wish I played it. I wish I played it on the original Xbox. I really do. I've always been aware of it, and I kind of feel like I've come to it way too late because there's just too many improvements to this genre that have made it so much more fun to play.
I think I agree with most of everything that you said there, to be fair. It's... at the time it was groundbreaking, now it feels held back, but that's because time has progressed, not because the game was made poorly.
Yeah, no, totally. I think clearly a lot of love and
100%,
had gone into it. Man, how many bloody menus though? Holy shit! Like how many things?
Never saw them.
How many powers? How many? Like just so much. And the best thing is, right? Well, the worst thing is, right? I should say the gameplay has been nicely upscaled. Whereas every cutscene and menu looks like utter shit on a modern TV. Like, so ugly.
Terrible.
It was a little jarring,
Because the gameplay looks sharp. Like, as good as it could, I'd imagine. But, like, the rest of it, so bad. But yeah, bring on the sequel. I'm more interested now. And I'll definitely be keeping an eye on Psychonauts 2 a little bit more closely. Anything final on that, Rich?
No, just the same as you. That it has got me excited for the sequel, and I want to see how it compares to its competitors because it does have some big guns.
Do you think will you complete the first game prior to playing 2?
How long is it?
I don't know.
Do you know?
No, I didn't feel like it was.
I think I'll play more of it. From looking at the collectibles, I've got a chunk of them, so I reckon I'm probably 10%.
Shame there's no achievements, huh?
Yeah, that's the clincher, isn't it?
That's actually with all that sort of gameplay, that kind of collectible gameplay. That achievements would have helped me go through it, I think. But yeah, it's kind of like, you feel it. You feel that missing in a game like that, don't you? So nowadays.
But then that shouldn't get in the way. We play games because we like games, not because of the admin.
Because of those pointless points. So saying that, the points at the moment do mean something if you're a rewards member. So worth picking them up at the moment. Anyway, that was Psychonauts. I think we'll all right. So we're getting towards the end of the show here. We're going to briefly touch on what we've been playing and wrap things up. I have been playing, obviously, lots of Mass Effect, as has Rob. So this is more of a...
You finished 2 yet?
No comment.
No.
So I think that's worth mentioning because we do have our podcast series of specials, which is coming to an end next week with the final part, looking at Mass Effect 3. So please check those out. They are a labour of Mass Effect love. Richard, you've been playing some Forza?
Yeah, just touching on our last point about achievements, and this month, if you get 10,000 gamer score, you get 10,000 Microsoft points, which is about a tenner's worth of credit. So I've gone back to Forza Horizon 4 and finished off as much as I possibly can. I'm up to like 2,500 gamer score on that game now, and I don't know how there's so much left to play. Those Forza games are just packed, aren't they? So much in them.
Yeah.
And they keep adding more. Every time I go back, there's a new mode and a whole slew of new achievements. So
is that in the month of May that if you get 10,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to do it by the end of tomorrow. So whatever achievements you've got by the end of tomorrow, you get the equivalent.
Yeah, I killed myself the last time they did this, and so I've taken it a lot easier on this one.
Didn't even know it was running.
You kind of run out of games that give you the easy thousands, and so you've actually got to play games for them now. But I'm up to about 5,000, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'm at. I've got the Mass Effects that I've powered through, so it's good.
I think, don't you have to activate the punch card, though?
Yeah.
Right. So if you haven't done that, Rob, you've not got any.
Will it retroactively pick up?
No, I don't think so. I think you've got to activate it first.
Nothing on rewards does things retroactively. It's a pretty shit system, so none of that works.
It is bad, isn't it? Like I noticed that because they released get 6,000 points for pre-ordering Resident Evil 8, which I did. I just did it 2 days too early, so I didn't get that bonus.
So what I've done in that situation is cancelled the order. Cancelled the order, activate the punch card, order it again. That's how I've done that before. It's a right pain in the arse, but you can get around it.
Yeah, how do you cancel the order though?
You have to go through the website, xbox.com purchase history.
Oh, that thing. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Pain in the butt. They do not make it easy for obvious reasons. The one final thing I want to mention is that I've been playing a game called The Magnificent Truffle Pigs. I'm, however, under embargo on that until Wednesday, but there will be a video ready for as soon as the embargo lifts, so keep an eye out on that for the channel. It's a really interesting
with a name like that.
Yeah, it's cool.
That sounds really fun.
I can tell you what it's not like a secret. I can say what it's about. It's about, metal detecting, and it's a bit of a walking sim, and it's all set in England. But my full review will be available on Wednesday. So yeah, I had to give up some Mass Effect time to do that. So I actually completed the whole thing as well. So yeah, it's nice that it doesn't take too long to complete. It's really, I can't even. I want to talk about it, but I can't. I'll talk about that next week, I guess.
If you finished it, that is a vote of confidence, isn't it? Because you rarely finish.
You could indeed take that as that, yes, but I couldn't say. But you could.
Ben, of course, can't comment. We can say that he only finishes games that he really likes. So.
No comment. Right, so aware of the time, aware that we've gone on for a bit. We've done an hour and 40, so that's pretty standard for us, but that's been a really good podcast. We enjoyed that, guys. Lots of news. Obviously, there's going to be lots more coming. Lots more shows and announcements and trailers, and we will talk about them all. I don't think we've made any plans for any E3 special podcast, because it's much more difficult now, because everything's spread out. It's not like one event. It's really hard to actually cover in that regard. So I think we'll just stick to the usual weekly schedule and talk about it when we get there.
Inevitably, we'll end up with weeks that just accidentally become E3 specials because of the amount of news coming out. So keep an eye on our channel for more.
Maybe we can do one if we want to do one after the Xbox one. I guess we can. If there's some,
that could be good.
It's a Sunday as well. Maybe we could do something Sunday night. After, because it'll be 2 hours, so it'll be like 8 o'clock on a Sunday, 8:30 on a Sunday. Maybe we'll do something then for that, because we are Xbox boys at heart. Let's be honest.
The hot takes episode after that could be quite good.
Yeah, sure.
So
pencil.
We'll have a plan.
We'll work something out. But yes, have a lovely rest of your bank holiday weekend or Memorial Day weekend if you're in the United States. I know we have lots of listeners over there as well, so enjoy that. And we'll be back next week with another one of these podcasts. So basically, you can find us on Twitter at DIYE for myself, at Homeless Mr. Gibbs for Rob, and at Colonel Red for Richard. You can find us collectively at Experience Kills. Please give us a like and subscribe on the channel. It does mean the world to us, and that's literally all we ask for. No Patreons, no silly sponsored content or anything like that on this channel. We're just good, honest boys doing good, honest game coverage. You can also check out our podcasts on audio format, anywhere a good podcast can be found. And if you do find somewhere that it isn't available, do let me know, and I will do everything possible to make that happen for you. I think that's everything. Oh yeah, and then on Twitch, I stream occasionally. We're not streaming the podcast live at the moment, but I might stream a game or two over the next couple of days on this long weekend. We'll see what happens. I might get some of that in, and that'll be nice. So give us a follow on Twitch as well while you're at it. Twitch.tv/experiencekills, I believe, is the URL for Twitch. I think that is everything for this week.
Oh, nice to talk to you. I'll see you again next time.
See you later, boys.
See you later.
Bye.